Metal Jesus, and I'm back again with part 2 of my Wii Hidden Gems video. I'm going to link to part 1 below. Now, this is my favorite time to collect for a console. It's at the end of its life because you get so many games to choose from and often really cheaply. It's one of the reasons why I have such a large collection because, you know, often you can find really cool games for $5 or less. And there's several of those in this video. Let's take a look. Blob is a total hidden gem on the Wii, and a game that I probably would skip by based on its cover because I just don't know that much about it. But thankfully, people on the forums highly recommended it, and I picked it up and I loved it. In this game, you play a blob that has the ability to launch a color revolution. And what I mean by that is that the world is pretty oppressed and basically in black and white. There's not a lot of expression. And it's your job to bring color and happiness back to this world. You pick up paints and mix colors, slam into buildings, and also free the citizens. And it's a really cool and interesting game. I actually played this way more than I thought I was going to. Another surprise about this game is that even though the subject matter is kind of depressing, the cutscenes are hilarious. Now, some of the controls take a little getting used to. They're not crazy complicated, but they're also not really intuitive. However, I've heard that the sequel fixes a lot of that, so I plan on picking that up soon. You guys know I like my on-rail shooters. Well, Sin and Punishment Star Successor is awesome on the Wii. Now, I would go so far to say this is probably one of the best on-rail shooters that is on this console, and it's simply just amazing. The backgrounds are beautiful to look at. There's tons of enemies to kill, and they're all varied in their style and their look. Plus, you notice I'm bouncing all around the screen here, and that's because there's quite a bit of strategy involved in this game as well. You really can't shoot everything, and part of the challenge is knowing what to shoot and how to survive. The levels are varied, and the bosses can be pretty gnarly in this game. Definitely takes some thinking power to get through them and survive.
Sachi, you okay?
Of course. That is new.
I would go so far as to say that Sin and Punishment is one of the best Wii games, and if it's not in your collection yet and you like shooters, it's highly recommended. Zack Wiki Quest for Barbarossa's Treasure is a great little hidden gem for people who like puzzle games and also adventure games. In this game, you use the Wii remote to control this silly pirate named Zack and his buddy Wiki, who has the ability to help him when needed. This journey has you using over 100 items to solve puzzles, many that you combine and build yourself. Plus, there are over 30 bosses and enemies that will get in your way, and over 30 hours of gameplay. This game really reminded me of some of the best adventure games that companies like LucasArts and Sierra used to put out back in the day. There's tons of charm, devious puzzles, and great characters that a fan like me can really latch onto, and I don't know, I just think this game's really well made and a lot of fun. Cursed Mountain is a game that kept showing up when I asked some fans on my channel and also on Facebook what games they think are hidden gems on the Wii. Well, I bought myself a copy, and now I can see why this survival horror game stands out. In this game, you are trying to rescue your brother, who vanished in the Himalayan mountains under kind of weird and mysterious circumstances. You will be searching through eerie villages, ancient monasteries, and a dangerous mountainside, all while trying to keep your sanity and fight off hallucinations while ghosts and other enemies continually block your path. I found this to be a pretty decent survival horror game and kind of reminded me of some of the classics it used to play back on the PlayStation 1 like Silent Hill and Resident Evil. However, I also found it to be kind of confusing at times, not exactly knowing where I need to go, so it's pretty easy to get lost. And also the story is somewhat slow, especially in the beginning. But if you're up for it, this is a pretty cool little hidden gem. Recently, I busted out a copy of Disney's Guilty Party. When hanging out with my wife on vacation, we were looking for a game that we could both play, and a buddy of mine recommended that I get this game. And at first I was like, a Disney game? This looks pretty stupid. No, actually, we had a blast playing this game. It's so much fun. This is a detective game that up to 4 players can play. Now, you can play it single player, but it's nowhere near as much fun because if you have other players, they can help you out in each turn. Now, the way the game works is at the beginning of each level, there is a guilty party and there's a bunch of people on that level and they move around from room to room and you basically have to try to figure out who it is. It's almost like Clue that way. Speaking of clues, you go from room to room and look for clues and try to piece together who you think is going to be that guilty party at the end of the level. A lot of time will be spent playing mini games, and thankfully in Guilty Party, they're a lot of fun, especially if you have multiple players. For instance, on one level, the main bad guy blows the circuit breaker and you have to replace fuses in the dark. And you have to do this fairly quickly. Now, if you have somebody helping you out, they can hold the flashlight while you are looking around for the different multicolored fuses. It's actually really intense and just a lot of fun. Now, if you're looking for a new game and you're having a party, this game I highly recommend. Overlord Dark Legend is a game I had never heard of before. Now, I know this is kind of like a prequel to a series. I guess it's on the PC or maybe the Xbox, I have no idea. But when I got this game, I became obsessed with it. I'm still obsessed with it. In this game, you play an evil overlord with all his little evil minions as you take over the countryside and try to win back your land. This is basically a real-time strategy game, and a lot of people compare it to another Nintendo classic, which is Pikmin. Now, I think the thing that really sets this game apart, other than the humor, which is pretty funny, surprisingly, and, the fact you get to play as the bad guy, the controls in this game are really, really great for the Wii. Now, there are some issues with the AI in this game, specifically with your minions. Sometimes they don't like to do exactly what you tell them to do, or maybe they'll get stuck. It's kind of annoying, but if you can get past that and you're looking for something really strategic, check out Overlord. Speed Racer, the video game? Really? Well, yes, actually. When I ask a bunch of subscribers and fans of my channel what games they thought I should get, well, surprisingly, this Speed Racer game kept coming up time and time again. Now, right off the bat, this game looks very similar to F-Zero, but it's not as good as F-Zero, okay? Let's just get that out there. It's not, but it is really well made. It's a pretty decent, fast, futuristic racing game. You can play as Speed Racer or any other number of characters from the anime or movie, and you go around these crazy, crazy colorful tracks. Really high speeds up to like 300, 400 miles an hour, and you do shunting, you'll smash into your opponents, you hit power-ups to go faster, you'll do tricks for a boost, and if you're lucky, you might just come in first place. Almost everything about this racing game is actually pretty decent. The cars feel really solid, the controls work really well, and like I mentioned before, you're doing combat, you're shunting back and forth, you're doing this car-foo stuff. And it all feels pretty good, although the car-foo stuff can get kind of frustrating. Sometimes you spin out, and for whatever reason, you don't have a lot of control. But the game is pretty fun, very colorful, and very cheap. The two No More Heroes games on the Wii are some of the most original, wacky, and wonderfully violent games on the system. And they are damn fun to play too.
Yo, help me out here. Where's this death metal dude? Bad answer.
You play as the ultra cool dude Travis Touchdown as he battles other assassins to climb the world's top killers list and become the most badass dude in town. Travis is armed with his beam katana, which allows you to slice and slash dudes apart while blood just like gushes out of their corpses. It's awesome. The combat uses a mix of button presses and the Wii remote movement to hack dudes apart in a way that it feels pretty natural, and at the same time, you feel like a total badass playing this game.
Did you know I am a yoga master?
You don't say.
Are you familiar with any yoga positions?
Like, downward dog?
The dog can do all sorts of things. So can the cobra, The rabbit?
Also, this game is just laugh out loud funny, has great characters, and an art style that I think is just fantastic. This game is beautiful and disturbing and sexy all at the same time. Now, the original game mixed in a little bit of Grand Theft Auto. You had kind of this open city, you could cruise around and do side missions and stuff like that. It didn't really work out that well. I wasn't a big fan of it, I guess I would say. But the second game streamlines that quite a bit. So if you're new to the series, you might consider starting with the second game. So that's some hidden gems for you collectors out there. Now, I have a question for you guys. If you were to look into the future 5, 10, maybe even 20 years, what piece of Wii hardware or maybe a Wii accessory do you think is going to end up being rare or valuable? You know, maybe like a variant on a controller or something like that. I was thinking about this today, and you know what I think might be really valuable in the future? It's that official redesign of the Wii that came out in only certain countries. It's called like the Wii Mini or something like that. And you know, because it came out like at the very end of the console's life, I mean, and it's kind of interesting. It looks totally different. So I don't know, that's my guess anyways. As always, I want to thank you for watching my channel, and thanks for subscribing. Take care.